Hi, welcome to Integrative Preparedness. I'm Steve Smith. Going to do kind of a continued video from yesterday where I started talking about groups. And yesterday I talked about the kind of people to be careful if you're forming a group or if you're looking to join a group. Here we have a little noise around here. Just it's the noise of life. Just try to ignore it. We have some people around shoveling some dirt across the street and lawn, yard work and stuff, and if it doesn't bother me, I hope it doesn't bother you. So anyway, groups. I'm not against groups, but I see problems with the way that a lot of people put them together, and that's what I want to talk about a little bit today. Actually, this is also kind of a lesson from Stonemont, so we're going to include that in, and we're in. I'll get to this in the second part about how I choose to look at groups, and that doesn't mean that I'm the only one who's right. It just means it's the way that I think about it after everything that I've considered. We're still. This is in the first and second chapter of the Reversion. So this will be a lesson from Stonemont as well, and it kind of shows. I use this book as a way to explain the rather organic way in which I think that groups should and can and will come together after a major collapse, and how I think it will work out best. So take it for what you think it's worth. You might agree, disagree. Whatever. I'll just kind of run through what I think about it. And yes, it's available on Amazon, as is the Revival and soon the Reversion, or the the Renewal. That's right. Okay. So anyway, the main problems that I see with groups and the way that most of them are put together, whether you call it a group, a MAGA team, or whatever, is of course people. People are always the unknown. You don't always, well, not just always, you often don't know exactly what you're getting with people until you've known them a long time and have gone through a lot with them. So with the idea of putting together groups specifically for the purpose of working together, being together, supporting one another in a collapse situation, you're dealing with a lot of unknowns. I've looked at a lot of the different groups that are around. I'll tell maybe a little story about. No, I'm not going to. I'll save that for another time. But anyway, I've looked at a lot of the groups that have been around a lot, which have dissipated or collapsed or had problems from within. I've talked to a lot of people, and I get pretty much the same story with a few variants, and that is that the group starts out pretty well with some good interest and some good unity, and over a period of time it begins to devolve. It could be personality conflicts, it could be a difficulty with sustaining the interest. That's it a lot of times, and I think that's understandable. I kind of think of putting together mags and groups in the current situation for a collapse situation in the future as kind of putting together a snow removal team in Phoenix, Arizona. You can get together and say, it's going to snow. We need to get together, and you guys have snow shovels and we have snow plows, and then you guys over there, you have the salt, and everybody's got a job to do, and we're going to practice on this, waiting for that snowfall to come. And of course, if you know much about Phoenix, the snow rarely comes. And if it does, once in a blue moon, you can pretty much blow it away with a hard breath. But so you can get out there and you can get together once a month, and and the snow shovel guys do their stuff, and the plow guys do their stuff, and the salt guys do their stuff, and it's all training. It's all working together and seeing how you work together, and then you have a few beers and you talk about, how well you did and working together, and boy, when that snow comes, you're really going to be ready, and you're going to know what you're doing, and isn't it a good thing that you have practiced this so that when the snow comes, everybody else, will be out of luck, but you guys are going to be all right. Well, and I don't mean to make fun of people that do this. I really don't, but that illustrates the difficulty of keeping the interest and the energy, because after a while, when the snow doesn't come, it's hard to keep people interested, right? And they wonder what they're training for and what they're doing for, and then it kind of devolves into different people having their own ideas and wondering what they're doing, and then you have a different level of interest and energy being put into it by different people. That can cause some internal conflicts. If you have rules, that's going to cause some internal conflicts, and you're probably familiar with the old 80-20 idea of 80% of the work gets done by 20% of the people. 80% of the problems are caused by 20% of the people, and the rest of the people just kind of fall within the middle. So without something to focus all that energy on, it's very difficult to maintain the direction and the focus of the group, and then it just kind of evolves into something else. For those who can do it, great. I give you props for that. But it's very rare that I've seen it work out, or that I've found or read about or been in contact with anybody who says that it's worked out well over the long term. And if it develops into friendships and things like that, well, that's great, and that's one of the best things can happen, and that's really a group or a team right there, isn't it? I think of things more in a web rather than a group. I don't belong to, and I won't belong to a group or a mag. I have a number of like-minded people. Each of us who are heads of our own groups, meaning our families, and known them for a long time, have known them as people, as friends, have known them and seen them and worked with them in a wide variety of circumstances, so that I've seen what they're about. And that's also one of the problems with developing a group just for a particular purpose. You see how those people are relative to that particular purpose, and that doesn't you can get together for pizza afterwards and all that, but it just takes time to really learn about a person to the extent of where you would trust them or should trust them, and trust is not something that should come too quickly. People are like onions. There's a lot of layers to them and a lot of things to be peeled off before you really know what's at their core. And I want to know what's at the core of the people that I depend on. And so that's why I'm really not interested, and I don't recommend to people that they develop a group for this. Good groups, I think, grow organically. So I'm not really concerned about whether all my people can shoot well or exactly what their background is. It so happens that I'm fortunate to have in my circle of people some great medical people. One in particular, my number one guy is, and hopefully you'll see him on one of these days, because I've told him that I'd like to interview him on one of these. And if you want to know about emergency medicine, I can't think of anybody be better than him. So anyway, but I'm not that concerned about the individual backgrounds so much as I am the quality of the person, because a quality person is going to step up in an emergency and do what needs to be done. Now, there will be some that'll say, well, if you don't have, blah, blah, blah experience, they're not going to be any good. Well, you'd be surprised. You would be surprised. But anyway, when I'm going to get back here now. Excuse me. This pollen around here is getting my throat, I guess. Getting back to the way that I explained it in the reversion here. I told the story about, first off, we have Jim Wyatt. He was away from home, and he got home to his number one team. That's his family. In the second chapter, we introduce a second important character, Christian Bell, and he happens to be Jim Wyatt's nephew. Now, he works in a hospital, and as he's leaving the hospital, he's gone out to his truck to put on his gear to get ready to walk for a few days to get out to Jim Wyatt's place, which is called Stonemont. For anybody who's read the book, you'll know why it's called Stonemont, and if you haven't read the book, well, why not? Go read it. You'll find out. So he's getting on his gear and getting his rifle out of his truck and getting ready to go, and he looks up and he sees this guy walking towards him that he recognizes as a paramedic who comes in on an ambulance every now and then. The guy is walking towards him with a rifle, and they kind of look at each other and say, well, we feel like we're looking in the mirror, and each of us thought that we were the only one like this around. They recognize each other as prepared people. They talk for a few minutes, and they kind of get the feel for each other. And you can sometimes. There are certain people that if you have certain things in common, you can make a pretty good and pretty quick and pretty accurate judgment on. Some people you can't, but some people you can. So anyway, the other guy, his name's Mike. And he's not from around the area. He came up to here for a girl that didn't last, and he's just waiting to see what he wants to do next. And he asks Christian, where are you headed? And Christian says, well, my uncle and I talked about this. His uncle meaning Jim Wyatt. We talked about this, and we said if anything like this ever happened, I was to get to his place, so that's where I'm going, and you're welcome to come along if you'd like. Mike says, why not? Here we go. They head towards there, walking a couple of days, and they're sacked out one night under a pine tree, and something wakes them up, breaking glass, and they see a group of guys come down, breaking into cars on the highway. The cars are stalled, and they're going through and looting these cars, and they come up on they watch them as they're coming upon a family who is obviously broken down and been staying in their car for a couple of days, a man and wife and their daughter. And they watch as the criminals, as you'll find out, attack the family. They go down, take care of the situation, and it becomes an intense situation, and I won't ruin the story by talking about it. But the intensity of the situation allows them to make a certain determination on the members of this family. And this family is from Ohio. They just happened to come out to Kansas to bring their daughter back home after the school year. And now, of course, they're hundreds of miles from home with no way to get back. And it just turns out that, come on with us. And so now we have another little group headed towards Stonemont. Over the period of the next, several weeks, we simply see, as everybody's understanding what's going on, they're making contacts with neighbors. A neighbor's daughter is up in Topeka, and they want to go get her, and so they help them go get her. Along the way, they make other contacts with a couple of sheriffs who, are able to tell them what's going on in their area of town. Come back with some more people. So we see that their group is building little by little. It's not a matter of that they all went out and say, we've got to get a bunch of people together here and to defend it. Now one of the important things is this is not really what would, we're not talking about a suburban or an urban area. Stonemont is outside of the city. So they're not dealing with immediate problems that somebody in a city would. Which is good because it allows them to to have a little bit of time and a little bit of working room as to how people are starting to come to them, or they're coming across people, as I say, organically. It's just happening. It's kind of growing. It's not being built so much as it's just growing because of Wyatt's preparedness, because he has prepared for a long time. For his own family, he's in a position to be able to help other people. As he's able to help these people, they realize that that this is their place to pitch in and become a part of this, and so there's a great kind of a give and take with this, that in exchange for the safety and the food of Stonemont and all this, then they are eager and happy to participate in whatever it's going to take to build the group and keep the group safe. Now, important in this, and I wrote it, I didn't throw in a lot of personality conflicts and stuff like this. I actually have another series of books that I've started to where I do address a situation with a lot of personality conflicts, but I hate conflicts anyway. I can't stand to be around people who are always wanting to be in conflicts, so that's not an enjoyable book for me to write. So I prefer the Stonemont scenario much more, so I pretty much stick with that. I want to explain how things can work out well and for the best. And I'm sure there's going to be some people who say, well, it's not going to work like that. That's not reality. And well, yeah, as a matter of fact, it can be. Some people's reality is full of conflict, and some people's reality is not, even in today's world. And it really kind of depends on what kind of life they live and what kind of life they prefer and what kind of life they require, not only from themselves, but the people around them who interact with them. So this is where I approach this, and it can be. It's going to be whatever you allow and whatever you require if you're in the situation to be able to call the shots, and that's pretty much what you want to do. Anyway, as these people are coming together, we're having people with who are pretty much like-minded. They share the same values. It's not something to where you have to explain rules to them and make rules. So as soon as you start having to make a lot of rules, that means you've got people in your group that need rules, okay? And those are problem people. And so I pretty much keep them out of my life now, and I'd keep them out then too. If that happened and they came to my place, there wouldn't be a need for a lot of rules, because if somebody just didn't understand how to act, they'd be gone fast. So anyway, that's how I kind of explained the growth of this. And in the Reversion, I take it through about the first year, I think, the first year, and I explain how this is kind of how I believe, how I feel, and how these organic communities come together. And I think this is what you would find. You'd find a community here, and you'd find one over there, and you'd find over there, and then you'd find a bunch of morons over there, that you're going to have problems with. Not everybody's going to be nice, and I think that probably the idiots are going to survive at a higher percentage than nice people, simply because of the way that they are. They're self-centered, they're wild, they're crazy, they're violent, they don't have the human empathy that's going to cost a lot of people their lives. So there's going to be plenty of those around to deal with, at the proper time. But anyway, this is when I tell people that I don't particularly, I'm not a proponent of groups. This is what I mean. I think that putting together a group before an event, kind of in hope of it, and I should interject that too. Some people, after a period of time when nothing happens, and they've been together as a mag or a group or whatever, and nothing happens, there's a certain sense of maybe frustration, maybe what am I doing, and in order to deal with that, they start to throw themselves into it a little bit more. There are two choices: either people fade away, or in order to kind of validate what they've done up to that point, they throw themselves into it more. They start buying more stuff, more equipment. They talk about it more. They try to to keep each other going and give each other the energy and motivate each other to keep going, because they kind of feel like if they don't, they've wasted all their time and their money, and they're getting together, and they feel foolish about talking all this up. The end of the world's coming and all this, and so they don't want to feel foolish, and so they have to keep going and building it up, and hopefully keep the people around them building it up as well, so that they can kind of feed off of their own energy. So I think that's a danger of building groups, pre-event. But that in no way diminishes the importance and the need of preparing. And this is why I suggest to people that they prepare at an even keel, unemotionally, do something every day, set some guide stones. Here's where I want to be here, and here's where I want to be then, and all that, and why I emphasize the importance of integrative preparedness, in that everything that you do to prepare has a positive effect on your life today, not just in case it happens. And that way you never burn out on it, and it just becomes a part of your life. So anyway, that's my take on groups. If you are a part of a group and it's working great, congratulations to you. Hope it keeps on going well. Take this for what you think it's worth, and realize I know that people are different. There's all different kinds of people around, and different things work for different people. But since people have asked me, I wanted to share those thoughts of mine on that, and I think that'll do it for today. So I wish you a good day, and wrap it up again like I have been by telling you and reminding you to prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow. Thanks a lot. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.